Jim. It's 10 o'clock. I will call the Harrison County Commission meeting for August 25th to order. You can rise and join in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, number one, public comment period. I believe we have 3 signed up here.
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Goble, Mr. Darcy, and Mr. Folio.
Mr. Goble?
Thank you for your time. Come to my attention about towing bill that proposed an amendment. And I don't think there's some guidelines followed. You got legislature 150 CR, some of it wouldn't follow PSC rules. And in 1995, Congressman Ray Hall deregulated towing. There, some of the towing over here, guidelines wasn't followed. And so I'm just objecting to it. I could be here for 3 hours talking on this issue. I just think that maybe your legal counsel should look over some of the laws before you would pass anything today. That's sure. I just want to make it short instead of dragging this thing clear out.
Mr. Dorsey, right?
Yes. Thank you for having me here today. I'd like to submit 67 more names from people who do not want our trail asphalted down in Shenandoah. First thing I want to do. And the other thing is I've heard absolutely nothing about what you plan on doing. And the people of Shenandoah would like to know what's going on. And, you know, we have a ton of people that don't want this. But, you know, I've heard rumors that they're going to start looking at the trail for to have a pitch put on for asphalt. I don't know if that's true or not, you know, rumors go. But, you know, what at this point, what are you planning?
I don't believe at this point interaction takes place. This is a public comment period.
Okay,
Okay.
but you can't actually tell me anything about your decision?
In the past, I mean, it was voted on to pay and do a portion of
Okay.
it with gravel.
But if you're presented with new information, can't you change that?
If somebody brings it, I mean, I guess you could change it if someone would put it on the agenda to change.
So it has to be put on an agenda.
Yes, because it's already been voted on, and I'd have to check to make sure that that can be done again.
Okay, well, I'll have to check on possibly seeing with the mayor about what we can do about that. But I do want to say this before I leave. Months ago, a petition of the people of Shenandoah and surrounding areas was presented to the Harrison County Commission asking that our trail not be asphalted like most of the other trails in the county. This petition was signed by the people of Shenandoah and surrounding areas. There should have been enough of the Harrison County Commission to vote for the people and with the people. That's the way democracy is supposed to work. At least that's what I was taught in school. Rather than doing what you want, you should be voting for what the people want. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Folio.
I'm Joe Folio, I'm with Grand Hotel Incorporated. And we have a parking lot on Washington Avenue and 200 block. And with the annex construction, they're using our driveway into the lot as a turning around and leaving, when they have to back up. And they've already knocked down a parking meter that the city had to remove. They ran over it and knocked it to the ground. And they also crushed a part of the sidewalk in front of the lot where there was a water meter, and the water board hasn't done anything other than put a cone on it. But they crushed the concrete around it, and it sunk, and there's a 2-foot hole, and all they had was cones over it. And our driveway is getting destroyed. So at the end of this, there's no sense in trying to repair it now because they're going to continue. We can't sit there and enforce it every 24/7, but they're continuing to, because you can't get back on the second, what is that, the 3rd Street. So yeah, they're using it with the triaxles. It was worse early on, but it's gotten to where it's torn up. And all I'm asking is that the county will consider repairing our driveway there because it wasn't in, it's not perfect, but it wasn't in the shape it is now. And I'm getting a lot of complaints from people that park there. They pay for parking and there's a lot of potholes and damage. I didn't bring any pictures or any proof of it, but if you walk over there, you can see it. It's the one directly across from the Washington Square. That's all I have. And if you all would consider, taking care of it for us in the future. When's the project deemed to be finished? Is there a time schedule when the annex is going to be completed next summer?
I believe.
Because I'm gonna have to go through a winter and it's gonna be tough to maybe patch it temporarily because when you run your blade up through there, you're gonna be hitting a lot of potholes and tearing up snow blades. We can talk about it. We still got a few months to. I just wanted to bring it, make it part of the meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim.
Susan, I needed that one.
Quick, make it quick.
I helped write Senate Bill 461 with some of the guidelines on that. It passed April the 13th, 2001. And some of the, in that was not followed by county.
Yes, sir.
In the future,
Uh-huh.
you need to get put on the agenda.
I may want,
You need to get put on the agenda
okay, how
And
do
not
I,
come here and
how do
talk
I
in
go
public.
about that?
because your petitions are not being made part of the record.
Oh,
So
okay, how do I go about doing that?
you call Laura and it has to be put on the
Oh, okay,
agenda.
I'll talk to her on the phone.
And you need to represent your petitions because this commission is not recognized and made record of your petitions.
Are you keeping the,
I have no idea if they've kept record of, sir.
they are, okay, because I had
They've never
called
been
the
made
town, I
record
wanted
of.
to check. Okay, I can,
There is no proof that you have presented this.
oh, okay, I wasn't familiar with the workings of all that. But thank you very much for telling me.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Have a good day.
I believe that's all that was signed up here. Is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to speak publicly? Anyone on Zoom wish to speak publicly? Hearing none, we will move to number 2, which is the consent agenda. What's the pleasure?
I would like to make a motion to accept and enlarge Huts Falls financials as presented.
Is that all that you're wanting to?
I'm gonna do Sun Valley, Eastview. Minutes. And financials.
But what about? Okay, so
I'm just trying to get stuff, thanks Susan, that never seemed to get into our minutes. We don't have any records of this stuff, so I'm gonna ask them to start voting. So my motion is to approve again, enlarged steps of balls financials as presented.
okay, the motion's been made to approve the financials of enlarged Hepzibah PSD that is on the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. What about the rest of the consent agenda?
Move to approve Sun Valley's PSD's financials.
Okay, the motion's been made to approve Sun Valley PSD. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried.
Move to approve the minutes as presented from Eastview PSD.
Move to approve C3 on the consent agenda, which are the minutes of Eastview. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carried.
Move to approve the rest of the consent agenda as presented.
Motion's been made to approve the rest of the consent agenda as presented on the agenda. I added that, I'm sorry. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Okay. Payroll change notices, we have none. Number 4, minutes and or amended minutes of previous meeting.
Would like to point out there's a consent agenda attached to the minutes.
Is there a motion to approve the draft amendment minutes?
We should approve and adopt the record. Please.
Motion to approve A, which are the August 18th, 2021 draft of the meeting minutes. All in favor, or any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, please note. Opposed there? Motion carried. Requisition purchase orders, invoices, which are attached to A, vendor requisition list of payments. That's a pleasure.
Motion to move forward with purchase order and adopt the record. Please.
Motion to move forward as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Exoneration corrective tickets. It appears that we only have exonerations attached to Exhibit A as Exhibit A to the minutes, or to the agenda, sorry.
Motion forward to move with A.
Motion to move forward with A. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 7, consideration of approval of a project fund requisition concerning Charles Pointe Economic Opportunity Development Series 2015 AB, Development District Number 3, White Oaks, Series 2008, Charles Pointe, Northland Bay Improvements. A, requisition for payment number 33 for $1,160. What's the pleasure?
Motion to move forward for requisition number 33.
Motion to move forward with requisition for payment number 33. Any further discussion? Hearing none, what's the play, or all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Number 8, review, discuss, consider amending the current towing policy and regulations. What's the pleasure?
Motion to move forward, turning this over to the county attorney to review and compare our revision with the Senate bill as well as the compliance with the PSC, please.
Motion to turn over to legal to review for
And advice, I'm sorry.
and advice. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am, I'd like to hear from our towing director. I have the changes we're asked for.
Good morning, all. The reason this is brought about
Hey, Ron,
was
tell us who you are. I know we all know.
Ron Woods, towing compliance officer for the towing
Thank you.
policy in Harrison and Taylor. Mr. Goebel is here from Taylor County, and Taylor County's already approved this amendment to the policy. And it started out because Dave Goebel was the only heavy record tower in Taylor County for many, many years. Since then, over the last year, another company has moved in and developed the same as a heavy record. Well, there was no rotation. So it was hit and miss whether the other tower was getting his fair share of the pot. Under Title 150 CSR 9 subsection 5 legislative rule, which Dave was referring to, there has to be a fair, equitable process to selecting towers. It just has to be, everybody gets their same cut of the pie. Well, that wasn't happening because there wasn't a rotation. We established a rotation. It's been approved in Taylor County. The commission's voted on this same issue that we're talking about right now. There's rotation, and the other criteria, I believe you have it, is the first section of amendment, and this is kind of a moot point on page 5, subsection 10A. There will be a single county-wide heavy-duty large towing, and that used to say under the old policy 3 ton. Actually, the national standard's 25 ton. So that was amended to bring up to the national standard that recognizes as a heavy record. The other amendment is on page 10 and under section 8. Section 8 itself did not change. What did change is the asterisk there. You'll see the heavy record needing assistance will first utilize heavy records within their county of record that are on the rotation policy for assistance before they contact any record from our other county rotation policy. And what that boils down to is Taylor County has 2 records. One record gets out on the scene, and under state law, heavy records is the only time this can happen. They can call for assistance, but they need to call from their county of record, which would be Taylor or Harrison, before they draw from another county on our policy, either Harrison or Taylor. And that wasn't happening. Taylor County was letting Harrison County, calling for a Harrison County record before you even used a record that was 10 minutes away. So you were looking at a 30 to 40 minute response time as a 10-minute response time. And where that came into play, traffic incident management, federal highways, you're supposed to have quick clearance of a roadway. It's bad enough on the interstate. When you're looking at 2-lane roads, we're not in Oklahoma where you can see for 500 miles straight. So we've got a lot of curves and dead bluffs and rises. And if we have traffic tied up for an extended period of time, we're going to have secondary accident. So that's what, by using the closest, quickest record is what this boils down to. Now in Harrison County, we don't have this problem, but our policy, being as we dispatch both counties, has to shadow the Taylor policy. So we're not doing anything that's not already been approved, and it really doesn't affect any of the towers in this county because our heavy towers have multiple heavy records within their own company, and they're not calling for assistance on a regular basis. But over there, you only had 2. But there again, like I said, I can't write a policy for Taylor County that's different than the policy in Harrison. So these are just minor adjustments that need to be made to make our policy and Taylor's policy exactly the same. It really has no bearing on our county really whatsoever, other than the tonnage, which that's standard industry. But I would request that we approve this, and I understand the commission's wanting to put it to legal, but I can assure you, we have filed, this county and Taylor County, we have followed CSR 9, Title 150 to the letter. And what it says in the state, and I know Dave was going to bring this up, is every 3 years we have to revisit the policy. And it says you will consult. Well, all the towers have been consulted. They always are, but they don't have the final say, so it's up to the county, because the county's the responsible party for this rotation. They're the ones that are bound by law to have it. And Dave is the only complaint about the amendment to the policy. All the rest of the towers have been okay with it. And like I said, in our county, it doesn't really affect anything other than changing what was way out of line, the tonnage rate, which was 3 tons. That doesn't even come close to qualifying as a heavy record. And I just amended that to go with the national standard. So
Do they all have a 25-ton record that they could use with a heavy?
everybody in this county and everybody in Taylor County, yes. Anybody that's qualified as a heavy record, that's what it's supposed to be. And there's only 2 in Taylor County, Goebel's Towing, CG and J. But
I mean, you're
CG,
not cutting anybody out, but
oh, no. This is the standard, and they know that. I mean, that's what qualifies as a heavy record nationally. There's, like I said, on our county, it's just a moot point. We're just falling in line because
this
we
is
can't.
exactly like Taylor's.
Correct.
Still think we need to-
And like I said, Taylor County's already voted and approved this. I just can't have 2 separate policies floating around when we dispatch both. So it's for 911 also, because they're the ones that are called. They can't try to be manipulating 2 different sets of rules when we're responsible under law to do both counties at the same time, because we dispatch both counties. If they had their own dispatch, there'd be a different policy over there, up
And
to
all
them.
the record services are okay with you?
Yes, I mean, like I said, in this county and even in Taylor County, the only person that was upset with it was Mr. Goebel, because he wanted to use a different tower from over here and not use a tower in Harris or in Taylor County. And I've tried to explain to him that it comes down to safety. It's not about, it's clearing the road quickly and not having secondary accidents. Why would you wait 40 minutes for a record to come from this county to Taylor County, as opposed to one that's set 10 minutes away that can do the same job? And it's just a safety issue. So,
Has he brought a suit against Taylor County?
pardon me,
Has he brought a suit against Taylor? County?
not to my knowledge, no. Not to my knowledge, no. We had a meeting, all the towers were there in Taylor County, and he voiced the only opposition. Like I said, I would recommend that we approve this, and it's totally up to the commission, of course, but we're shadowing, we've got to shadow both policies, have to be the same.
You're wrong, you're 100% right, and really, the only reason I want to do what I'm doing is because I know that we as a county commission can supersede legislation, and legislation, of course, can supersede federal law.
Right.
So let's make sure we're not doing
I'm
anything we
out.
shouldn't.
I'm
And then-
completely okay
But
with
it's
that,
not, but I appreciate your homework.
yeah, I just want you to know that we've never, in my 8 years of been doing this, we followed Title 150 CSR 9 subsection 5 to the letter. And it says that our policy has to be written to the level of the state policy and above. You can't write it less, but you can write it more. And that's what we've always done, is we've tried to cover every aspect of it that might come up, but it's always been shadowed between both counties simply because we dispatch both counties. So,
I guess what I'm hearing from my other commissioner is that we're gonna let Mr. Zimmerman review what you have, which I guess means Mr. Zimmerman has to go back and review what you've done. Because what you've done is make a minor adjustment. So we're saying the whole policy from the beginning has to be looked at to make sure that it meets this standard. Is that how we're saying this?
If you're asking me, really, you can make another motion on the floor and it's fine. I was,
Well, I make a motion to pass it, but accept it as presented.
Motion's been made to pass and as presented in discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
no,
No.
No, I mean, it's your all's call.
So we'll take up.
it's not you. We're
No.
just-
Well, no, I understand. I'm just presenting it as it is. And like I said, we've done our due diligence,
We're not saying you're not.
Yeah,
over the last
we-
8 years. So
I think you're right.
This can get,
my concern is, quite honestly, is public safety.
I understand.
And that's my utmost concern with it, is that it's not as critical running the interstate, because you can see and we could have extra lanes. But when you're talking Taylor County, Route 50, and I could give you a prime example. I don't know if you know 119 going out towards Webster. We had a tractor trailer wreck, or a big box truck wreck, and it's all blind turns. And we were lucky enough with my signage that I had in my car to keep that, but we had some very close calls for the delay in getting a wrecker there. And that's what this is all about: quick, safe clearance to get the accident removed and people safely home. But I thank you all for your time, and I'll wait for your decision.
So the motion's been made to give to legal to review.
And this, yes.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Please note on both of those motions. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Woods.
Hi, guys. Well, thank you for having me here today. Commissioner Hinkle asked me to come in and talk to you all about the American Rescue Plan stuff. I can give you all just a brief overview of kind of how this came to be and where we're going with the State Auditor's Office. I'm Anthony Woods. I'm with State Auditor J.B. McCuskey's office. We've been helping a lot of counties and cities work on their American Rescue Plan projects. This was legislation that passed in March through the federal government, and it provides a large amount of money to the county and city governments to work on COVID relief and to help these local governments respond and kind of recover from this COVID-19 emergency that we're still going through. Another component of this legislation is infrastructure as well. So local governments can use this funding for water projects, sewer projects, and broadband projects. So what we've been doing is we have been assisting our local governments in applying for this money. They do have to make an application to the federal government for the money. They do have to provide some basic information about the government. And then once they get their money, what we are now helping them with is a lot of the reporting. Now, the auditor's office is not telling any local government what to do with their money. That is going to be a decision that's made completely at the local level. We feel that those elected officials know best how to spend that money in the community and where that's needed. But what we can do is help folks look at the guidance, try to make sense of the guidance, and try to assist them in finding projects that are going to benefit their community for years to come. So there's a few things that you can do with this money. One of the things that you can do is immediate COVID relief. So masks, immunizations, vaccinations, that sort of thing. If there's a pressing need in your community to still recover from COVID, and of course, as I'm sure you all know, the Delta variant is, it's starting up again. That is an allowable use of this funding. You can also use this funding to recover from some of the longer term effects. So public health capacity, mental health capacity, people in a pandemic, mental health, it's been an issue. For example, one of the counties that we've worked with, they had an issue in their health department that when they were giving these vaccinations, they didn't have a good place to give them and still socially distance everyone out. So they're looking at potentially expanding a health department. They didn't have a dock to bring masks and truckloads of things that they would need to do these responses in. So that's an example of something you can do. What's also interesting about this particular American Rescue Plan funding is a lost revenue provision. So some of you may have been familiar with the CARES Act, and that immediate long-term was not there. That was just an immediate influx of money to respond to that immediate emergency. So what this American Rescue Plan is designed to do is to do long-term. And one of those things is something called revenue replacement. So what a local government can do if they choose is go back, and the United States Treasury has set a specific formula on how this is calculated, but they can go back pre-pandemic and compare that to the revenues currently and try to extrapolate a local government's lost revenue due to COVID. B&O taxes might have been down. You can't have events. So, a lot of that economic activity from having events and these things that you do in your communities, it just wasn't there. So with that lost revenue, if a local government opts to do that, they can calculate how much of their revenue was lost, then estimate that, and they can use their American Rescue Plan funding up to that amount for basic city services. Now, there's a few things that you can't do with that lost revenue. You can't pay any debt service. So if you have any bonds, principal interest, that's not an eligible expense. You can't pay any settlements or claims or judgments or anything like that. And you can't sock it away in a rainy day fund for later. You have to use it right then and there for city services. But that is one provision that a lot of our local governments are taking advantage of. If something is not immediately directly eligible under the guidelines, but it's still needed in the community and follows all the other guidelines that the US Treasury has set forth, that lost revenue provision is something that you might want to take advantage of. And then you get into the infrastructure aspect of things. West Virginia, we have a lot of local governments that have aging water systems. They're 90 to 100 years old, and they're a lot of times leaking more water out in these old pipes than they are actually producing water for the citizens of the community. We actually went to Wheeling last week, and we learned that they had wooden pipes, which I didn't even know that was a thing, but they have legitimate wooden pipes in the ground that carry some of their water around. So that, lead pipes too. That's another aspect that this can be used to replace. So as long as the projects that a local government wants to do for infrastructure, as long as it's water and sewer, it has to follow the EPA Clean Water State Revolving Fund or the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund guidelines. So that's how you'll know if a project is eligible under those provisions. They have on the EPA website some information about generally what kind of projects are eligible and how to apply and do that. For broadband, there are some other guidelines for those eligible projects. There has to be some minimum standards met for exactly the kind of speed and what kind of citizens that you're serving with that broadband project, but that is something that is potentially eligible under that American Rescue Plan. What we've been doing a lot with our local governments is, again, we're not telling them how to spend their money, and we're not pre-approving or giving yays or nays on any projects. That's going to be a local government decision. But we've been helping folks try to look at the guidance, try to field questions, and find in the guidance where the projects that they want to take on might be covered by that American Rescue Plan guidance. It is evolving. They have something out there, they being the US Treasury, they have something out there called the interim final rule. And so what they have done is they are taking public comments. That public comment period closed in July. And so what the US Treasury will be doing very, very soon is putting what's going to be called the final rule out there. And that's going to be the final set of guidelines for the American Rescue Plan going forward. We've been helping local governments in their reporting. I don't know if you all know this, but as Harrison County, you have an interim report due next Tuesday, August 31st. If you all need any assistance with that, we've been helping counties go through and fill that out. Even if you have no spend on your projects, the Treasury is still asking you to go in and just put zeros for everything, just so they know that you all are aware and are engaged in that process. So that's something we've been helping a lot of counties with, because that deadline is coming up next week, and some folks have just needed some assistance getting in the portal and verifying themselves and making that report. For your cities, which here would be several from Clarksburg's one that springs to mind, their first report is going to be due on October 31st, Halloween. So we're offering some tools to these local governments, you guys included. Austin McVeigh sitting over here is with me. He's been working on this very extensively. We're going to have in the very, very near future, probably by the end of the month, a reporting tool that's optional to use, but it can help track some of your American Rescue Plan spending, get it all in one place, and allow you to report to the US Treasury a little easier. What we're also doing with our local governments is we have a statewide initiative that's already been in place before COVID. It's called Project Mountaineer. And what that is we are going into our local governments, and if they would like a website that can show their expenses and revenues so the public can be more informed, and you guys as the commission can be more informed, and your city councils and mayors in the cities. That's something we've done with our local governments. So it takes a county or a city's expenditures and revenues, their financial data, and publishes it out to a forward public-facing website. And so one of our plans with this American Rescue Plan funding is to expand that Project Mountaineer initiative and let the American Rescue Plan spending and projects go into there, so the citizens of all of our counties and cities can see, you know, where that money's being spent and what their elected leaders, which is you guys and your city councils, where that money's going and how it's going to benefit the community for years to come. That's really the goal of this American Rescue Plan, is to really have that project that you really have always been wanting to do, that's going to benefit your county or benefit your city for years to come on down the road, you know, 10, 20, 25 years, it's still there. One of the things we don't have happen, I don't know if you guys remember the broadband money. What did we get out of that broadband money? We didn't get anything. No one can tell us what happened with it, and you know, we have issues. So that's something we want to avoid with this funding with our counties, and that's something that the state auditor's office is assisting the local governments in doing. I'm open to any questions if you guys have any questions or comments or anything like that.
I appreciate your presentation the other day too.
Well, if there's anything you need, please feel free to contact our office, contact me, contact Austin. We are here as a resource. When this all first passed, I knew I was going to have a very busy summer. And that's one of my main jobs right now, is making sure that this project is a success, not just for your Harrison County, but for West Virginia. So thank you guys for having us. Okay, sorry.
I apologize. I guess one of my first is, when you say for government, can we give it to other government entities like other cities?
Right, if you
Take
choose,
our money and give it to another city.
right. So if you choose to subgrant within a city within Harrison County, that is eligible. You'll be responsible for making sure that they are complying with the requirements and doing everything they need to do. They'll have their own set of money that they're going to be responsible for reporting on. But if you subgrant it out, it's kind of a grant that you guys give.
And I noticed another was premium pay for essential workers.
Right.
You didn't discuss that.
Sure. So the premium pay, you can give premium pay to essential workers. You have to be careful how you do that. And that's something that kind of came into play when the governor's office gave out the $100,000 hero pay. There are some provisions in code that you can't give bonuses, for example, to a public employee. So like a one-time grant of that premium pay may not be permissible due to state code. But there have been counties who have done temporary pay increases and voted on it as a council or commission, and then have given additional pay to first responders or those out in the community for that premium pay. It does talk about giving premium pay to, like, for example, grocery store workers or people on the front line. And we don't have a huge opinion on that, but what we are telling folks is to perhaps get an ethics opinion through the Ethics Commission, just to make sure that that's okay. There are some provisions against private gain. So if the Ethics Commission, rules that you all can do that, then the auditor's office really has no opinion on that. Just make sure that you're accounting for that and tracking that appropriately.
My other one is the negative economic impacts, where it says that we can support unemployed workers, loans, grants, and kind of assistance to small businesses.
Yes.
You all have a program set up that we do this with small businesses for loans or grants of any kind, or is that something like you want to sell?
Well, we do have a tool that you can use if you like. We have it deployed in Kanawha County, and there's 3 or 4 other counties that are coming on board with it. It's kind of like an application tool. So what if you wanted to open this up to the business community or open it up to nonprofits or whomever you choose, you can have a custom form and collect the information that you would want to collect, anything that you would want to know. And they could make an application and it would come to you all, and you can filter through these applications and look through the ones, and you can kind of prioritize them and approve them. There's a whole workflow process. And it's a tool that you can use to kind of standardize that process. That way it's fair and equitable. And you guys would have the information collected that you would want to collect, number of employees or what kind of business you are, where are you located, that whatever you wanted. And they could fill those things and it will come to you on that portal, and you could go from there and decide how you'd like to grant that out.
Could you expand on tourism, travel, and hospitality sector for me?
Yeah, sure. So with the tourism and travel, one of the examples that they gave when we all were quote unquote locked down and you really couldn't go out to the movies, you couldn't go out to bars or restaurants. There wasn't events to go to. What a lot of people did, and this was true at the state level, they went to the park. You could spread out, you're still getting some fresh air, you're not in your house, and you're still out and having a great time. Unfortunately, with that comes with increased wear and tear to your park. So a lot of when you have an X number of folks coming into your park one year and then you double or triple that the next year, restrooms break down, paths and benches and that sort of thing. So that's an example of something you can do to bolster your tourism industry. I do believe you can give grants to them too. You can give them assistance with complying with the COVID guidelines. So, plexiglass, hand sanitizer, rewording signing and configurations of buildings to keep people apart, or to, put in a temperature checker stand if you have some sort of indoor facility. So those are just kind of some very broad examples of what you can do to bolster that travel and tourism and hospitality industry.
I guess my final question, we can exempt whatever we want and just tell the public we're only going to offer money for certain sectors.
Right, that is your choice on what you'd like to do. Some folks are doing it all in infrastructure. Some folks are really bolstering their health response. You all as the commission will decide what avenues you want to go to. What a lot of other local governments have done is they've had some town halls where folks have come in and tried to give their input on what they think their community needs and how best to use this money. That's not a requirement. It's just something you can do if you like. But ultimately, the decision as to what you can do, whether it be one aspect that you can go through with the guidance, or multiple, or 2 or 3, that's only going to rest on you all. You don't have to do every single thing that the guidance allows. It's just whatever you feel is best.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And if you all need anything, please feel free to reach out at any time.
Appreciate it.
The next item is number 9, review, discuss, consider subdivision and land development ordinance.
Hey, Madam President, can we table this, just so I can do more homework? And it took W a few years to get it to us. I need more than a couple days to look at it. It's a lot. It really is.
We've been taking this thing around Patsy for 3 months. But it's been brought up for the commission.
Okay.
I don't understand why we have to delay it. It's something we need to put in place.
Okay. Charlotte, you want to come up and tell us a little bit about it? Because I'm gonna do, I mean, I'm still gonna table it and hold it off on it because I gotta get ready, but tell us what.
Excuse me, you're going to table it?
I'm gonna ask to, I'm not gonna, remember I tried to table something earlier, but we allowed you to go ahead and make a second amendment. We're always gonna be fair to each other here.
There's a lot of people that are sitting online to discuss this today, Patsy, because we've held public meetings. We've had it before this commission several times. And we're again going to table something that evidently you haven't had time to look over, and I don't think that's fair to these people who have been working hard on it, including myself, including Charlotte, and the people that are online today to support it, because you haven't been able to keep up with it.
Why didn't they come to the public?
COVID.
Huh?
COVID.
Couldn't be on Zoom.
They are on
They're
Zoom.
on Zoom now.
What about last week?
It was a public hearing. There wasn't anybody that said no to it or to it. I just don't understand why we keep kicking this can down the path.
Okay, Charlotte, you were asked to speak.
Charlotte Schaefer, Planning Director. Our current subdivision ordinance is from 1979. This ordinance is bringing us up to date. And we've followed the law of the state code. We partnered up with WVU Law Clinic, and they've done a lot of work, on this. We had several meetings. Every month we would have a meeting, and everybody would go over everything, and everybody was unanimous on the vote. I know last week we had a developer that was concerned about the new regulations, and all I can say is this new subdivision is to make living safer in Harrison County for subdivisions. We have several subdivisions that are just less than what they should be. And that's, because the developers did not go that extra mile. And this will take them to that extra mile to make sure that the residents of Harrison County are safe in their homes. Not sliding down the hill, not a deck falling off, making sure that they have proper water and sewage. I just, we've even gone as far as we have a lot of people in the county that have large families, and right now you are only allowed to subdivide your property 4 times before it becomes a major subdivision. So how are you going to do that? Give an acre for each kid if you've got 10 kids? That's really hard to do, because they would have to do a major subdivision. So with that, if it's kinfolk, if it's relatives, we have bypassed that and said, yes, you can do this. You have to prove that you are a relative, And it's going to make that much easier on people that are giving property to their daughters and sons and relatives. We've looked at the RV situation. I know like the health department has them sitting 5 feet apart. We do not think that that is near enough. I mean, like if one catches on fire, they're all gonna go. So we've asked for 20 feet apart. I think that it's time that we come into the now. And, I don't know what else to say other than I think it's a good thing to pass. We have Jared on the line. He was one of the writers of this document.
One question for you. Is this going through the planning commission?
It has.
And how's the planning commission voted?
It was unanimous to send it to the commission.
So the planning commission had no issues with this.
They had no issues.
It's sent it to us.
Yes.
And how many months ago did they send it to us? Probably maybe 6 months, year.
It's probably close to a year.
Kicking this around.
Yeah. The president, Jimmy Smith, is also online.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Smith.
Jimmy? Mr. Smith?
I know he said he was having a hard time hearing.
I'd also like to hear from Trey.
Trey has also read it.
Trey, do you wish to speak to this?
Yeah, can you all hear me okay? Can you all hear me? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't get any response. Yes, good morning, everyone. I reviewed this many months ago in early 2021, and I did not have any substantive revisions. I thought what the land use clinic had prepared was an appropriate update. It certainly was sufficient and it was needed from my perspective. It has increased requirements such as surety obligations for developers, which I think are essential, especially in the utility realm. We've had some historic issues with developers throughout the county who have not completed as the county would want projects to be done. And I think the amendments and the revisions to the 1979 ordinance are bringing us forward. And I think that they will actually, create a better environment to live in Harrison County and to build. And I say that because most of the municipalities have adopted some or all portions of the International Property Maintenance Code. The county has not adopted a similar provision, and this subdivision regulation is really helpful from the land use maintenance side to move us forward from where I sit. And there is a question about enforcement, but before we can speak to or address enforcement, we have to have the teeth to be enforced. And I certainly didn't draft the current proposal, but I have reviewed it. And those are my thoughts. Do you all have specific questions for me this morning?
I do not.
Okay. Sorry I couldn't be there in person.
That's what I understand.
Right. Did we ever get Jim?
Jimmy Smith. Hello.
Got one thing.
Jared.
Jared's still with us.
Oh, he says his mic's not working. Jimmy. Jared is on there though.
Hello?
Hey, Jared.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any specific question? Jared Anderson with the WVU Land Use Law Clinic.
Jared, I don't have any specific questions. I don't know if the other two commissioners have questions.
I don't.
Okay.
Patrick, do you have any questions?
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you, sir, for attending. We appreciate the work that you did, at least I do.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well.
I know that there has been a question of whether or not we will have to hire an engineer. We will not. Currently, what we do is when we do get a major subdivision brought to us, which this is my 8th year and we've done 3. So you see, we don't often get them. We hire an engineering firm to go over the plans. And that is so much cheaper than hiring an engineer and keeping them on staff day after day, whenever you only need, like, I would have only needed it 3 times. And it's maybe $1,000, $2,000. But in this ordinance now, we have the developer paying for that service. Because in the past, the county has paid for that service to have that checked, and now that cost will have to go back to the developer.
So in 8 years, we've only done 3 developments.
Yes.
Is Randy Spellman on the line?
Randy, are you on the call? Randy Spellman.
Laura, do you want to speak to what you and Mr. Spellman have done?
All I asked him to do was give me thoughts on his perspective of the ordinance.
You hired him to do that.
I did.
Under what? To be able to hire him to do that.
He has that background, so. I
That's
wanted
not
his
the
input.
issue today. On the issue.
Well,
It is not the
I'm
issue.
leaving the issue of subdivision. He's already given his opinion.
I understand that. But what you're asking her was not.
I can't ask her where she got the right to hire somebody without us proving it.
I don't understand who's, we've already hired him, but the point right now is the subdivision is up for vote. Mr. Spellman has given her an opinion. She wants to share that.
Well, I think his conflict of interest can be discussing it with us, considering he is.
Again, we're not, if we don't discuss it with him, then
I'm sure this, you've all been given this, so you all know what the email says, every one of us.
Yes.
So we all know what it says, so to sit here and say it's not something discussable, we all know what it says.
I didn't
We
say
don't know
that was
why.
not discussed. I'm not gonna
I
argue.
don't know why it was even done. If she's not going to talk about what she asked somebody to do, and we're talking about this today.
I wanted more background information on this ordinance.
So
Coming in,
you haven't had time to read it either?
I read through it, but I
Or
wanted to
you
make sure that I
have a
understood.
background in development?
I do not. That's why I reached out to somebody. I also reached out to Trey
So
for
give
his
us-
information.
Give us what you've learned. We're sitting here trying to decide to pass something.
Madam President, I'm not ready to vote today on this, and I'll go ahead and call the question that if we could have more time so I can spend more time myself on homework on this, make sure that It's everything.
Another month or two passes, or are you gonna sit there on your phone and keep taking notes off of it instead of paying attention to what anybody said in this room this afternoon? If you sat there, looked through your Facebook and you went through your calendar, you did not pay attention to one thing that was said.
Mr.
by
Hinkle, I
those people.
believe you're.
I don't care what you have to say, Susan. It's a fact. Maybe we ought to bring a camera and put it over and watch what Patsy does all day. Maybe he spends too much time while he's here working for the gentleman sitting here worrying about where he's got to go this week instead of paying attention to this. It's pathetic that we're sitting here and can't discuss something that's been said for 6 months to a year and he still doesn't understand it or have anything to say, and neither do you.
Well, I'm ready to vote. Don't
No,
start
no,
on
no, what? Table it?
I can vote to table it, or I can vote.
Vote to kill it.
Exactly.
Get anything to make the farmers happy. That's all you care about. You don't care about the rest of the citizens of this county. So call your vote. You guys are predictable. Maybe the paper should come up and zoom in on what Patsy does all day while we're up here at these meetings on his phone.
Okay, your motion is to table this item, Mr. Treehouse.
Please.
A motion's been made to table number 8, which number 9, excuse me. Review, discuss, consider subdivision of land development ordinance. We've discussed this.
I discussed it.
All
You two
in,
didn't.
all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Number 10. Review, discuss, consider courthouse protocol on pandemic procedures.
With the uptick in COVID cases, the schools now are going to have mask requirement for the first month. It is something that we should definitely discuss to see if we want to change our courthouse procedures.
Question. Commissioner Treecost is our representative with the health department and from the health department. Commissioner Treecost.
And the health department is leaving it in the hands of the Board of Education to make their own decision.
So they have no recommendations for other public buildings.
Not at this present time. It wasn't discussed in our meeting, sir.
So I might vote we don't do anything. We don't do anything.
There's a
So we
motion.
get guidance from the health department.
The motion has been made to leave, to not change any protocol concerning COVID until we hear from the health department. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? No.
Aye.
Can you get the health department? Okay. Number 11 is the administrator's report.
Midweek farmers market that we have on the courthouse has been extended on Wednesdays. It's now from noon to 5:30. It's a great thing that we are offering to the residents and those visiting Clarksburg. 911 posted an ad. We currently have 2 openings for dispatchers at the 911 center. We also have, that the public may not be aware of, on our Facebook page, we have a Harrison County Public Nuisance Complaint Form on the website, so residents can actually go and fill out complaints, whether it's animals running at large, whether it's trash, whether it's some complaints that, you know, a lot of individuals call into the commission office for, but they can actually go on the website and submit this.
This website on Facebook.
It is on the website, correct? Yes. We did put out a request for proposal. It's posted on our website for janitorial services for here at the courthouse. We'd like to see what we can get back with those. And IT is in the process of posting our meetings on a YouTube channel.
These authorization.
It was my understanding
I
that
asked on these authorization.
I told them that they could go ahead and do it after it was requested.
Watch where you go with this one. Is this gonna be interesting?
Or won't you check with legal, make sure you're not doing anything wrong, and if you are, go ahead and just make it an agenda item, please.
Yes.
Meeting. If you two want to join, I'm having a conversation with Johnny.
Did you have any?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we don't even have commissioners. These were their first questions.
It's all good.
I would just like to point out that this commission seems to think that we have to run everything by legal, which I don't know how this commission survived for the last 200 years, but everything seems to have to go in front of Trey now. So I would appreciate that before anything is brought to this commission to talk about, that it goes before our attorney, so we don't have to keep postponing stuff, waiting for him to get us an answer, because it seems to be the modus operandi that we want to do now is come to a meeting, have something presented to us, and then send it to the attorney. Let's just try doing it the other way around. So when we come to a meeting and it's on the agenda, we can talk about it and vote on it instead of waiting for the attorney to come back with it. Trey, could you turn your mic on? I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Have you gone over the contract for our consultant?
Have I gone over the contract? I drafted a contract and it was delivered, but we haven't followed up on it.
So do we need a contract with Mr. Spellman, or is just because we say we hired him, that's all we need?
I would, like I said, I drafted a contract, a proposed consulting agreement template for the county's use. I would like to see that, yes.
Well, I would like to know if Mr. Spellman works for us or doesn't work for us right now.
Yeah, I'd like to see a contract in place, Commissioner.
And that contract was only to work on these American Rescue Plan, if I remember right in the meeting. It wasn't for anything else.
The contract I created is a template contract. It's to have an exhibit behind it which defines the scope of services, so we don't have to recreate the wheel each time. And for Mr. Spellman, I think we should review the minutes and tie the scope of services to the minutes.
I think when we hired him, it was for him to call everybody and find out about the American Rescue Plan. I'm pretty sure about those in the minutes. So I'm just trying to make sure that I understand what his job description is and that we do not have a contract.
As of today, I haven't seen a signed contract, sir. It's been drafted.
So again, I'll ask why Mr. Spellman was hired, but I don't know under what authority. That's all my comments.
I have nothing.
I don't need the Madam President. Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.